myself and Rod have both been on deep personal journeys before we even knew each other. And everything we're sharing here today comes from the place of each man and each woman taking responsibility for their own journeys. Of course, our relationships and our partnerships are incredibly powerful for creating healing and spaces to see and know ourselves more deeply. And it also takes quite a bit of self-awareness to see ourselves in these ways. So, I just wanted to put that forward, and it was a reflection that somebody offered to Rod during the break as well, that self-awareness underpins all of this. The next piece that I wanted to touch on was around how we can inspire men. And this is the part that I shared at the beginning about how I know that I had longed for so many years to feel cherished. And I know that Rod had been longing for the experience of cherishing a woman. So in order for me to create and experience feeling cherished, I needed to be able to bring inspiration to my relationship. I needed to be able to bring all of myself into this experience. Because as I shared earlier, if I cut myself down, make myself smaller, make myself less than, if I play a small game, then I'm only inviting my partner to play a small game with me. And if I invite him to play a small game with me, I will feel disappointed. He will feel disappointed. We won't go deeply into our connection with each other. And what I mean by a small game, this is something that came up recently on our women's retreat. A woman was sharing how she was looking forward to spending some time with her partner, and then he scheduled a day with a friend without having scheduled time with her. And she turned to him and she's like, "Oh, that's okay, honey. Don't you feel guilty? Go and do whatever you want to do. It's okay. I'll be okay." Do you think she's playing a big game or a small game? Small, for sure. Because she didn't include her feelings. It's okay for a woman to share, "Oh, I feel disappointed. I would have really loved for us to have that time together." When you ask a man to play a big game with you, then there's also the possibility of him winning big points. And men want to be able to win points. There's that beautifully competitive, playful part of a man that wants to be able to win. But if we ask him to play small, then he's just going to win a few points. Who wants to even get off the couch for a few points? When we inspire a man, we share how we feel in such a way that we become an invitation. Who we're being as women is an invitation. An example from when we first got together, in actual fact, before our first date. So Rod invited me out for a date and I said yes. And at the time, I lived in Melbourne. Rod's never lived in Melbourne and is not very familiar with Melbourne. So he said to me, "Where would you like to go?" Now, anybody who knows me knows that I'm a big foodie. Food is really important. And I have lots of favourite places to go. So it would have been very, very easy for me to say to Rod, "Oh yeah, I want to go here, I want to go here." But I knew enough about this journey of relationship to know that if I told him where I wanted to go, I was starting the relationship from a place of directing him. I was starting the relationship from that perspective of let's do things my way. And having done that in the past, it didn't work out so well for me in the past. So why would I do that again? So I'm on the phone with Rod and I said, "Surprise me." And he was like, oh, surprise you. Okay. And I did tell him there were a few requirements he needed to know. So I let him know that I'm vegetarian, I eat fish occasionally, and I like really good quality food. So I actually gave him all the information that he needed to be able to win, to be able to choose a good place. He took it one step further and reached out to our beautiful Rachel, who's our foodie expert and caterer, and Rachel gave him a great recommendation. But in that way, I gave him the opportunity to create the direction for our relationship. And then to take it one step further, he messaged me back and he's like, okay, I've got a place booked in for this time. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. How am I going to get there? And he's like, well, I'll pick you up, of course. And so even just creating those openings, that kind of invitation for him to be able to step in and lead me. And whilst this might seem like a small thing, every small thing in a relationship adds up to a big thing. It impacts sexual connection. It impacts polarity. It impacts the masculine and feminine energy. And when a woman goes into the mode of directing or leading a man, what happens is that she starts occupying the masculine space. And then before she knows it, she's at one of my workshops, putting up her hand going, how do I get him to step up? And of course, there's no space for him to step up because she's taken the masculine platform. So where's that leave the man? In the feminine platform. Life is polarity. So it will either be that if a woman is strongly holding the masculine, if she's directing, leading, taking charge, making the relationship decisions, one of two things can happen. He can be there trying to make decisions with her and butting heads, or he can take the feminine polarity and go, okay, honey, whatever you want, honey. Yeah, honey, I'm good with that. And then the woman feels dissatisfied. She feels disgruntled. She wonders when he's going to step up and be a man, but there's no place for a man to be a man when the woman is busy being a man. And I don't say this from the perspective of women needing to be passive. I'm certainly not advocating that we go back to the 1950s. I still use my masculine energy for creating my life, creating my business. There are times when Rod and I can be in that kind of creative, directive space where we're talking about business and life and we're both in masculine energy, and that has its time and space. But when it comes to our relationship, if I'm always the one leading with direction of let's do this, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this workshop, you should sign up for this course. If I take that role, I'm being masculine. I'm also being mothering. And this is something else that I wrote a blog about recently, is how common it is for women to mother men. Now, the energy of mother is assumed to be a feminine role because mother is a woman. However, on a scale of masculine-feminine polarity, everything is relative. So when we look at relativity, father and mother, father's masculine, mother is feminine. If we look at mother and child, mother is masculine, child is feminine, because the child is dependent on mother. Mother provides protection. Mother provides nurturance. So there's that sense of mother in relation to child, the mother being masculine. So when a woman takes on mothering her partner, when she mothers him, she then goes into that mode of being the masculine one, being the directive one. And often women say to me that They don't want to mother their partners because they don't want to do all the cooking and the cleaning. But the mothering energy runs much deeper than the cooking and the cleaning. In actual fact, you can do the cooking and the cleaning and still not be in mother mode. Mother mode is more specifically like, you should do this, you should do that, you should wear this, you should be like this. Why aren't you different? Why should you, there's this sense of trying to change a man, trying to control him, and not trusting him that comes from that space of mothering him. Because in children, we provide mothering guidance because they need it. But when you give that to a man, there's this sense that you don't accept who he is, you don't trust who he is, and you need him to be somehow different. And that doesn't feel good from a woman's perspective. It also doesn't feel good from a man's perspective. I know for me, it's actually exhausting to be in that mode. There's a part of me where I totally enjoy decision making. I totally enjoy creating my life and having structure and plans for my life. And there's another part where I just love not to have to do those things and to be able to go, oh, Rod made that decision. That feels good. An example from our life would be last year, Rod was talking about us going on a holiday to America to do a workshop. And for me, that felt like a really strong no in my body, because I spend a lot of my time on my personal journey and facilitating groups and so on. And I went, oh, I'm going to take a holiday to go and do a workshop. Oh my God. And so at the time, I just said to Rod, I would actually love to have a holiday where we do a workshop, because that is true. I would love to do that in the future. And right now, I feel what I most need is a holiday where we just go and sit on the beach and do nothing. And at the time, we actually weren't planning a holiday. I was just a random conversation. And then about 2 weeks later, Rod rings me and he goes, so I'm on the website and I see we can go to Thailand these dates to these dates. Is that going to work? And I'm like, yeah, totally. And do you like this accommodation? Yeah, totally. And so we went to Thailand between Christmas and New Year. And for me, that's another example of sharing with Rod how I feel, not directing him, not saying to him, let's go to Thailand at Christmas. Because if I'm in that mode of let's go to Thailand at Christmas, there's no space for him to be in the masculine lead. Whereas me saying I'd love a beach holiday where we do nothing, he actually made that holiday happen way sooner than I thought we would have a holiday. Somewhere in my awareness, I thought, maybe we'll have a holiday around May, June, but we had it in December. And it's... my tongue's just doing circles with my brain. Not so much with my brain. There's so much about this topic that I love. A woman being an inspiration for a man, a woman trusting a man to make decisions. And that's why I went into a little bit of brain freeze. It's like, which bit do I share next? It adds so much value to a relationship when a woman trusts the man she's with. And I know Rod shared before about how women want to be chosen, and that is very, very much true. And long before a man chooses us, we choose him. A woman always does the initial choosing. Whether she's aware of it or not, whether he's aware of it or not, we choose. What I see happen a lot is that women choose men that they don't trust. Now, why would you do that? Why would you choose someone that you don't trust? I can see two reasons why that happens. Women choose men that they don't trust because they want to stay in control. I don't trust him, so I'll be the one in control. I'll be the one who leads the relationship, and he can be my sideling. The other scenario is that the inner child chooses, and the inner child goes, Daddy wasn't available for me, and this man feels a little bit like Daddy. If I choose this man and I can win this man over, I'll have finally completed my cycle with Daddy. I did a few rounds of that one myself. Didn't work so well. Because when the inner child chooses, we make decisions based on the past. We make decisions based on looking for that approval and that validation. And the only place that that approval and validation can truly come from is from myself. So I was really aware before Rod and I were together that I needed to choose a man that I could absolutely trust, and also a man that I would not want to change. I needed to choose a man who I felt like I could fully be myself with. Often what people look for when they're stepping into new relationships is that really high kind of pulsing hormonal charge of like, oh my God, I like this person so much, I'm giddy, I can't stand up straight when I'm around them. But that experience, for me anyway, led to me not being myself around men. What I loved about being around Rod was that I could just be me. I didn't have to, be special in any particular way. I didn't have to do things to please him. And there was that sense that I could trust him because I didn't feel him trying to please me. Whenever I felt men coming around me trying to please me, there was that sense of like, oh, I won't be able to trust him. So I heard Rod giggle, and I know why he giggled, because there's a lot of aspects of Rod that weren't on my mental list, right? So Rod's a hairdresser. He has a lot of tattoos. He rides motorbikes. He makes beer. And none of those things were on my list. Like, I didn't imagine that I was going to end up with a man who did all those things. And so it did mess with my brain a little bit. But what I have learnt through the journey of Tantra is to trust my body more than my brain. So my body felt good when I was around Rod. And I also had the interesting combination of feeling good in my body, both feeling safe, but also electricity and magnetism. So there was that sense of like, oh, my feminine longing opens when I'm around him. Like, I want to be intimate, I want to be sexual, I want to be close with him, and I feel safe. And that's a very, very powerful combination, because earlier in my life, I thought it was one or the other, either safe man or longing opens. But in actual fact, what I found with Rod was that I could be in my body, I could be relaxed, I could feel safe, and I could feel my longing and desire for him, with that sense of electricity and magnetism just kind of sparking in the air between us. So that felt really good for me. And it also affirmed for me that I could trust myself around Rod, and that I could trust Rod. I could trust him to see and be with all of me. And part of trusting him is also trusting myself enough to express who I am. So just to go back to something I shared earlier, expressing who you are means giving a man lots of important information. How do you feel? What makes you feel good? What causes you to shut down? What does he do that excites you? What does he do that makes you a little nervous? Share data with a man, because the more data he has, the more he knows who you are, the better decisions he can make. If I keep that data to myself, if I don't share with him what's important to me, then he will probably make bad decisions. And then I would most likely hold that against him. But really, it comes back to me taking responsibility, like to share with him what's important, to share with him what's of value, so that the more data he has about me, about what feels good for me in a relationship, then the better choices he can make. So trust is incredibly, incredibly valuable in a relationship. It certainly creates a lot of relaxation for me. To trust him means that I can let go of a lot of things. Then I'm not running my own masculine energy all the time. And it also opens up a lot for Rod, but I'm going to hand over to him so he can share about that now.
Hello again. I'm not shaking quite as much, but I'm still shaking. But trust is such an incredibly powerful thing in a relationship. And it's not easily done, that trusting. And I think it's important too to acknowledge the power of vulnerability. The amount of vulnerability it takes for a woman to trust a man is huge. And being that invitation as a woman is incredibly powerful. I know Martina touched on control and things like that because of the fear. The truth is that there's so much less power in control. There's so much power in vulnerability. Showing how you really feel, showing who you really are, allowing someone to see your true desires. It's a powerful thing to do. It's also inspirational to receive that vulnerability as a man. There's that open invitation as a man, I want to dive into. I want to cherish that. I want to love that. I want to show up for that. And that trust, there's something in that. Like for me as a man, I experience more love when she says, I trust you, than when she says, I love you. I feel it ripple through my body. It's just like, oh my God, she trusts me. Well, shit, I better show up. I better do a good job. Like, wow, how can I do this better? Like, I'm inspired immediately to do my best. What is the best version of I can be right now? And how do I bring that? I'm immediately looking for ways to be the best version of myself, to offer that to her. Because I don't want to let her down. I don't want to be a bad, shitty man. Like, I want to be good. So the trust is inspirational. And I'll just check in, like, I've asked this question over 100 times and only ever had it once, but do people actually know what trust means? Like, not what it actually means to you, but what it actually means. And trust means believing without knowing. So as a man, as a hairdresser, I've sat there and I've had these amazing conversations with people. It's like, you know, oh yeah, I trust my man so much. Oh yeah, what's he doing? Oh, he's going out with the boys tonight. Oh, really? That sounds cool. What's he doing? Like, well, at 7 he's going to Bob's house, and then at 8 they're going to go down to the pub, and then at 9:30 they're going to go to this place and they're having dinner there, and he's going to have steak, and at 11 he's going to check in with me, and then if it's okay, he's going to go after there, and then at 12 he's going to be home. And I'm like, okay, that's not trust, that's knowing. Trust will be, babe, I'm going to go out with the boys tonight. Cool, see ya. If you come home, I'll see you. If not, I'll catch you tomorrow. You believe that that person is going to honour your love, honour your relationship. You don't know. You just believe. That's trust. It's incredibly vulnerable. But when a woman trusts me as a man with her love, with her desire, with her vulnerability, oh my God, I want that. That inspires me to show up to that relationship. I want to be there. I want to love her and be there in that moment. I had a beautiful conversation with a man recently. It was a great example of this. he'd done like a men's course that I ran, and his wife had just come back from women's retreat. And he rings me up and he's like, "Oh, Rod, I had the most amazing experience with my partner." I nearly said her name, sorry. And I was like, "Oh, really? What happened?" I said, he's like super excited. He's like, "I feel like I've just met my wife for the first time." And they're just so in love. It was beautiful. And they wanted to come to couples retreat, and she's financial security is incredibly important to her. She just wants to cringe and die if it's not there. So her tendency has always been to control the finances. No, we're not doing this. No, we can't do that and this. And she's just turned to him and she's just said, "Financial security is so important to me, but I want you to look after it." And he's just like, "Oh my God," he's ringing me. He's so excited. He's like, "She said this and that, and I said, "What are you going to do? How do you feel?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to do the best job. I can't wait." He's like, "I'm so excited. I'm going to find money for this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to save this and save that." And he's just there. He's so inspired to create together the love that they want, to create the safety for her, to honor her. And that's honoring, cherishing, worshipping, devoting himself, his choices, and his life to his partner because she showed up with her vulnerability and her trust. Thank you.